The current state of SpaceX's Starship presents us with an unusual predicament. We're witnessing contradictory realities unfold simultaneously. On one side, we're dealing with the most massive, capable, and technologically sophisticated rocket system humanity has ever developed. For the 8th consecutive time, this colossal machine has roared to life from America's shores and ascended victoriously into the void of space. The spectacle alone commands profound admiration. Yet conversely, for the 3rd successive attempt, this same spacecraft has encountered catastrophic malfunction during flight and plummeted earthward, incinerating as it descends into a shower of blazing wreckage. They achieved considerably greater distance on this particular mission, though there remains substantial material to examine and understand. Let's dive into the specifics of what transpired during Starship's 9th flight test. SpaceX had established 2 major objectives they sought to accomplish with this launch. The first involved the inaugural relaunch of a previously flown Super Heavy booster. The rocket that departed Tuesday was identical to the one that had launched in January 2025. That booster had successfully returned to its departure point and been captured by the Mechazilla Tower mechanism, then transported back into the Starbase assembly facility for thorough inspection. Engineers replaced 4 of its Raptor engines. The booster underwent comprehensive refurbishment before being returned to the pad for its 2nd mission. The truly remarkable aspect here extends beyond simply reflying the entire booster assembly. One specific engine aboard, Raptor 314, the central engine, was embarking on its 3rd journey to space. This entire endeavor centers on proving the hardware can be reliably reused. The objective of this initial test involved returning the Super Heavy booster to Earth along a more demanding trajectory than previously attempted, what SpaceX characterizes as an elevated angle of attack. Consider it in these terms. If the booster descended vertically from space, that would represent 0 angle. All aerodynamic resistance would impact the rocket's base, allowing it to slice through atmosphere with minimal opposition. When you begin tilting the booster horizontally, you're amplifying that attack angle, exposing additional surface area to atmospheric drag, thereby increasing resistance, which serves a beneficial purpose by causing the rocket to decelerate more substantially during descent, which subsequently means less engine power is required during the final landing sequence. There would be reduced velocity requiring elimination. However, the steeper attack angle simultaneously subjects the rocket's structure to greater mechanical stress, which explains SpaceX's choice to aim for an ocean splashdown with this specific booster. Not only did the first reflown Super Heavy carry elevated failure risk, but engineers deliberately introduced this additional hazard element. My assessment suggests that when you anticipate probable rocket failure anyway, you maximize value by ensuring it fails while attempting something innovative. Fail while pushing boundaries. The second major test SpaceX intended to achieve involved a regulated re-entry sequence with the Starship upper stage. They've successfully executed this procedure before, but that involved Starship V1, an entirely different vehicle. This represents Starship V2, and the majority of modifications implemented between these 2 spacecraft focus specifically on achieving superior re-entry and landing performance, which subsequently enables complete reusability of the ship stage. The challenge lies in our severely limited data regarding Ship V2's re-entry performance, because they continue encountering catastrophic failures before reaching that mission's concluding phase. Let's be straightforward, socks and neckties hardly constitute ideal Father's Day gifts. Therefore, this year, bypass the subtle suggestions and secure yourself the perfect present, or at minimum, ensure your family knows precisely what to purchase. Because currently, the Starship replica lightsaber from Saber Council is discounted by 15% through May's end, and it stands among the most stunning sabers available. Whether you're passionate about Star Wars, SpaceX, or occupy that overlapping category, this saber was designed for you. Featuring a brushed metal handle inspired by a particular stainless steel rocket, RGB illumination and engaging sound effects, it resembles something discovered in a distant galaxy or stationed at Boca Chica's launch facility. So reward yourself this Father's Day, or forward the link to someone requiring gentle encouragement to commit. Just don't delay because the 15% discount expires this May, and these items don't remain available indefinitely. Visit saberconsole.com and acquire the Starship Saber immediately. During pre-flight discussions with both Eric Berger from Ars Technica and Tim Dodd from Everyday Astronaut, Elon Musk emphasized that evaluating the new Starship heat shield constituted the paramount priority. He informed Eric, "The most critical objective is collecting data on heat tile design improvements. Essentially, we need data captured during the intense heating phase of re-entry to refine the tiles for subsequent iterations. We're conducting approximately a dozen or more tile experiments." He conveyed nearly identical information to Tim, labeling this test Flight the Tiles mission. How did everything unfold? Well, Starship's departure was virtually perfect. We've observed this sequence numerous times, and despite utilizing a previously flown booster, launch proceeded without complications. All 33 engines ignited and operated flawlessly. Hot stage separation exhibited slight differences this time. Typically, the hot stage ring contains vent apertures distributed around its circumference that permit upper stage engine exhaust to disperse omnidirectionally, enabling the booster to rotate in any direction. We've witnessed it pivot right, left, and downward. SpaceX representatives explained there had never been a predetermined plan previously. They simply allowed natural rotation. But on Flight 9, SpaceX deliberately obstructed certain vent apertures to channel engine exhaust in one precise direction, which would intentionally rotate the booster toward the optimal orientation, which apparently means straight upward and backward. SpaceX states this represents the most efficient flight trajectory. It demands minimal steering effort to position the rocket correctly for the boost backburn that decelerates it for re-entry, which also executed perfectly during this latest test. All 13 interior Raptor engines activated and completed a full-duration burn, then deactivated without incident. While observing the booster's return from space, we're simultaneously anxiously monitoring the ship's continued progress along its suborbital trajectory. Twice this year, we've witnessed flames erupting in the engine compartment, delivering a devastating blow to aspirations of a Starship V2 re-entry. Except this time, the booster suffered the fatal combustion. It descended adequately while flying at the steeper angle of attack. The difference appeared negligible. We observed substantial fire accumulation surrounding the engines, but the appearance matched every previous occasion. We witnessed successful reignition for the landing burn. Approximately 12 of the 13 Raptors appeared to reactivate, but within moments of engine restart, we watched the entire Super Heavy booster transform into an enormous fireball. Regrettably, the camera coverage here proved severely inadequate, but it definitely involved excessive fire. This confirms that this particular Super Heavy booster iteration, which resembles a V1.5, it differs from the original booster they manufactured, and also varies somewhat from the first booster flown, but it remains unprepared for reuse. Fortunately, they decided against attempting to catch that one. Returning our attention to the ship stage, it's progressing through the ascent burn. All 6 engines are performing strongly, but we're observing peculiar phenomena in the engine compartment. Some of this we can rationalize. Looking upward and leftward, there's a gas plume descending from above. Is that leakage? Is that deliberate? This most likely represents the new nitrogen purge system SpaceX installed in Starship's attic space, which constitutes a gap between the engine heat shield's top surface and the oxygen tank's bottom surface. This location experienced fire outbreak on Flight 7 in January, so they installed a fire suppression system there that floods the space with nitrogen gas, which cannot burn. It will expel any oxygen and methane that might accumulate inside the attic before they can ignite. That's probably what we're witnessing at the screen's top. Everything appears to proceed smoothly until approximately T+8 minutes 30 seconds. We can observe some hot spots emerging, one on the engine bell rightward, and there's an orange luminescence on the ship's opposite side, though our view is largely obstructed. May or may not signify serious trouble. Rocket engines do generate heat after all. Regardless, things begin behaving strangely at main engine cutoff. There's substantial gas venting. There's minor combustion in the engine bay's upper right, and then the ship appears to slowly rotate. It's not the violent spinning we witnessed previously, but it's also nowhere near as stable as what we observed during earlier successful flights. There's considerable awkward silence from the presenters. Nobody seems genuinely confident about what's occurring. Our only resource is observation. At this juncture, reviewing the notes we recorded during the live event, I documented, seems to be moving excessively. Really seems to be moving significantly. Substantial gas is escaping. Is the rear section pointing upward? Appears to be traveling backward. Perhaps this is all planned testing. Around 14 minutes into flight, the ship actually appears to have stabilized. And they begin discussing deploying the mission's test payload, which consists of Starlink simulators. essentially just large metal chunks matching the size and weight of next-generation Starlink satellites. We receive an excellent camera view inside the payload bay. We can observe all these small ice particles floating around. They seem to be moving considerably, curving in different directions, which might indicate the ship continues spinning. What happens subsequently is a more definitive failure. Around 18 minutes into flight, SpaceX is scheduled to open the door on the small compartment that will allow the payload to be ejected from the ship by the PEZ dispenser mechanism. But the door becomes jammed. That was disappointing. Afterward, the views from the ship disappear for roughly 10 minutes. We're simply waiting for a period, and then we finally get reconnected to the ship cameras around the 30-minute mark. We can observe that things have not been progressing well up there. It's nighttime in this world region, so we can't see much, but we do see clouds passing beneath the rocket that are moving very rapidly. The altitude is 175 kilometers. Those are very distant, which means the ship itself has been rotating quite rapidly. At this juncture, it's fairly evident that we're experiencing a severe spin-out. The livestream presenters acknowledge that the ship has lost attitude control, and at this point, it is condemned to fall helplessly back into the atmosphere. What went wrong? In a post-flight report, SpaceX documented an attitude control error prevented Starship from achieving the intended position for re-entry, and Elon Musk also posted on X, leaks caused a loss of main tank pressure during the coast and re-entry phase. This all aligns with what we witnessed. Leaking propellant will push the ship in the direction opposite the leak. It's like activating an unplanned thruster, except it's completely uncontrolled. Starship does possess its own thrusters, but they are only engineered to make very minor adjustments. They might not be sufficiently powerful to counteract the force of a propellant leak. We also need to recognize that Starship has a very unconventional thruster system. Rather than utilizing separate tanks of compressed gas, the Starship thrusters use excess pressure from the main fuel tanks, the thing that Elon said was leaking. As the cryogenic liquid in the tank warms and boils off, that reaction generates substantial pressure inside the tank, like when you boil water in a covered pot. Eventually, steam wants to force that lid off. The identical thing occurs inside Starship, so they need to vent that excess pressure, and instead of wasting a perfectly viable energy source, they redirect the steam from the tanks into the thruster system and use that to steer the rocket. Therefore, if the tank is leaking, then excess pressure isn't accumulating, and without that pressure, the control thrusters don't function. Now, that is merely a theory, but it does make sense to me. Around 41 minutes into flight, the ship is spinning very rapidly, and it begins impacting the atmosphere. Things become chaotic from here. There's fire everywhere. Flashes of light, smoke, materials are melting. Somehow the Starlink cameras continue broadcasting all the way down to the point where we can observe parts of the ship melting away and disintegrating. It's simultaneously sad and impressive and spectacular. The final images of Starship that were captured appear to be this video from Namibia that shows an immense shooting star streaking across the night sky. It's very unclear just how much SpaceX was able to learn from that. We know they did not obtain all the data they desired, but it also doesn't appear this will set them back, not according to Elon at least. He wrote on X, "Launch cadence for next 3 flights will be faster at approximately 1 every 3 to 4 weeks. That does sound somewhat crazy, but SpaceX already has the next 3 Starships in various stages of construction. They are mostly completed at this point, so they can either push forward and launch them or give up and try to reinvent the whole Starship. And I think it's quite obvious what SpaceX is going to do. It's what they've always done. Fly as frequently as possible. Find problems. Try to fix them.